Baik, Shalom Bapak Ibu Jemaat yang dikasihi Tuhan. Malam ini kita kembali meneruskan Family Discipleship Time dengan sebuah pelajaran yaitu I Love You More. Bagaimana kita bisa mengasihi dan mencintai pasangan kita lebih dan lebih lagi. Ternyata jatuh cinta itu bukan bicara satu pengalaman atau satu momen tertentu, tapi bicara mengenai sebuah perjalanan. Nah, kita perlu membuka hati kita dan siap diperlengkapi oleh dokter dan pasangannya, yaitu Les and Leslie Parrott, seorang family therapist, psikolog, dan juga seorang penulis buku-buku yang laris tentang pernikahan dan family. Session kedua ini akan membahas tentang tackle this first, ya. Lalu yang the other will getting easier katanya. Ketika kita sudah bisa tackle this problem first, maka semua problem-problem yang ada, bahkan hal-hal yang ada dalam pernikahan akan menjadi lebih mudah katanya. Oke, saya akan share screen. Mari kita saksikan tayangan video ini. Saudara bisa pakai untuk sharing dengan pasangan atau dalam bahan oikos masing-masing. Thank you, Tuhan memberkati semuanya.
Okay, you guys, in this session, we're going to do something a little different, a little experiment. So turn to session 2 in your study guide.
That's right. We want you to take 30 seconds, look around your room, and identify everything that's the color green and write it down.
You've got 30 seconds. We're going to put a clock on the screen. Write down everything you see that's green. And if you win, if you come up with the longest list of green things, you're going to win this pie.
Yes, one of my legendary banana cream pies.
Wow.
Ready? Go.
Jadi lagi rekaman.
Okay, what you just achieved was what we call a green mindset. A few moments ago, you weren't even conscious of the color green.
That's right. And once you start looking for the color green, it's nearly impossible not to see it everywhere you look.
That's true, and the same is true in our relationships. When you get a mindset for seeing a certain behavior, you'll find that behavior. It has to do with attitudes.
That's right, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this session.
Each passing day, I love you more. Baby, you've got a way that makes me love you more. I love you more.
I love you more.
No, I love you more.
No, I love you more.
Oh, even though we've got issues,
Crying through millions of tissues.
I love you more.
I love you more. I've got to share this with you. I love you more. I have to tell you the truth. I love you more.
I love you more.
Baby, I love you more.
I love you more. Though we've got problems, we can solve them. I love you more.
Oh, I love you more.
You know, I often tell my students at the university that the mind is what the brain does, but you can't x-ray the mind. There's no place in here to say, well, there's the mind, you know? But the mind has everything to do with attitude. And when it comes to resolving, not just resolving problems, but being able to kind of transcend your problems and move beyond them and grow in spite of them and even because of them, it hinges on attitude.
That's right. Our attitude is so powerful, and really, it is the hinge that everything hangs on for us as couples trying to solve problems together.
Yeah, and so we were trying to think of a way to make this more tangible, and we came up with something. I don't know if you guys have all seen this thing before. This is known as a Hoberman sphere, for the guy that invented it. And the interesting thing about this deal is that it's made of dozens of little tiny hinges, and they're kind of touch points. And if you were to think of this as the human mind and how it kind of represents attitude, you might think about each one of these hinges as an attitude. Maybe this is your attitude toward money.
Or maybe one toward your in-laws.
Yes, speaking of which. And, or maybe this is your attitude towards how birthdays should be celebrated, or what else?
Yeah, or cooking, doing the dishes.
Laundry, car maintenance, grocery shopping, all the daily stuff that we go through. We have attitudes about different things. And when we create a mindset that is positive, that's not looking for the negative in our partner, obviously that's when our relationship begins to expand. That's what allows that. Ooh, great idea, right? And it's true. So as you think about your attitude, and you have all these different touch points for various things in your relationship, as they turn negative, that's when the relationship begins to collapse in on itself. And we do that all the time, don't we, in our relationship? And the truth is, we all want to grow, but we never can when we have that mindset that's always looking for the negative.
Yeah, especially when we get rigid and inflexible with those kind of attitudes we have toward our spouse.
Well, it's usually when we have those two words. You know what the two magic words for collapsing your relationship? Always and never, right? You always make us late. You never pick up your clothes, right? Think about a time when you've kind of put your spouse in a box, as it were, with those two words. Can you think, anything come to mind? What are the most common ways that you do that to each other? Because we all do it, if we're honest, don't we?
Always.
Never.
Well, since she spoke up and everybody got a great laugh out of it, she likes to tell me, about my clothes. I come in and I just kind of throw my clothes. It's like an afterthought. It's like a fluid motion as I'm walking in.
Like a 2-year-old, kind of. Just
Yeah,
take
yeah.
them off right there, wherever they are,
Yeah.
socks in the pants and everything.
And I'll go kind of a couple, 3 or 4 days until it reaches critical mass, in that it's like a pile here, or it's critical mass with her. And she's just frustrated,
Who else? Always and never. Does that ever contaminate your attitude?
I used to say that Vaughn was always late, but that's because I grew up in a household that I would say that Dad was never on time. He was always early. And so I had to just, my attitude from where I came from was the idea that you didn't always have to be early, that it was okay to be on time, and it was even okay to be late sometimes. So I'm always ready. But then I'll do some stuff that I need to do in the house. And so now I just don't get stressed out because you don't always have to be early.
It's a good one.
Parents used to come 2 hours early. 2 hours early. Arriving a good 2 hours.
And you were thrilled, weren't you?
I was.
But Arnie, that's a great example, because when you get put in a box and people, start saying, okay, they're always going to be late, it gets frustrating because you feel like, okay, I'm not always like that, and you feel like you can't change, and you kind of just give into it. And it really starts having the power where it creates your behavior.
Would you guys agree that if you kind of learn to adjust your attitude and move it into that positive camp, that it just makes problem solving easier all the way around? I mean, we all agree with that, right? How do you do that? How do you get to a place where your attitude works in your favor? That's the challenge, right?
What I've learned after these long years of being married, the fact is that he's often been right a lot. And in retrospect, I've realized now he often, when he digs his heel in, he's right. I'm really learning to respect his gifts. And the fact that we really are complement each other, and that's not always fun because we're very different.
One of the great attitude adjusters that it's helped me in our marriage is I remember the first couple years, it was just clashing on little stupid things that didn't matter. It was really a result of the way I was raised and the traditions that you come from in your home, and then they're colliding with the way that her family did things. And what's really helped me is to stop being so offended by certain things or irritated or frustrated, but to kind of step back, take my glasses off and put her glasses on. And that kind of helps, because then it helps you to not be so threatened or so perturbed. You just go, okay, she's not trying to be this way or do this or harp on me or whatever. It's just, this is how she operates and it's how she sees this, and I see it this way.
And something so little as clothes, I mean, a stack of clothes, there's no depth to that at all, but it is something that could take over your marriage. You know what I'm saying? It's amazing. And I think for us, I've just learned to stop, and he'll get to the point where he'll go, I know I'm going to pick my clothes up, and I don't even have to say anything. So again, looking through a different set of lenses, if you will.
I think you've touched on something important, and that's gratitude.
Yeah.
That's one thing that can help you turn that attitude, and that's a touch point, right? Anybody else?
We too come from two totally different family backgrounds, and it had seemed to me, actually it still seems to me a bit like this, but that I can't come to Arnie with kind of an exciting dream or desire, because the issue is how much will it cost. His parents were cash only on the farm, and once I got the understanding that there was a point of fear, that it wasn't that he didn't want to have fun, there was a fear about just losing the money, not having it be there, and an attitude of how he was raised. And I've learned to understand that and approach it differently. And I don't know that I've become incredibly graceful about it, but I understand that, you know, that's a touch point. You know, we both have different perspectives on money. And is that fair?
Well, it's very fair. She's a visionary. She can see way out there, the bigger picture. We just need to realize that that's who we are, and that we're going to approach it entirely differently. But we want to get to the same end.
And it's just not that one person's bad or good, that I'm this huge wasteful spender, or he's this terrible frugal hoarder. It's just that what I see is totally, you know, a different perspective than his.
So what I hear you saying is, you recognize, hey, we're hardwired differently when it comes to money, and you're saying we're going to accept each other anyway. It's a challenge to do sometimes, but that expands your relationship. How about you, Stephen?
Stephanie loves animals. She's just crazy about animals. And I didn't grow up having a lot of pets in the house. Pets were outside on the chain, you know, with the dog. Urban guy. So eventually, I wanted to bond with her with this dog thing. So I bought a dog for her. So we got 2 dogs in the house. And then Shatari, the dog that I bought for my wife. Shatari. The first dog you bought. The first dog. The first dog I bought for my wife ended up getting pregnant
By the second
dog that I bought for her. And then the dog had how many pups? 10 pups. And I'll never forget, I was out of town on business.
You kind of enjoy this, don't you?
I was out of town on business, and I come and I'm talking. I was in California. I'm on the phone talking with her. She said, "The pups are here. The pups are coming." I'm going, "What is she gonna do?" And so I fly back that night, and then I look inside our laundry room, and I see my wife down there with all these pups. She's cleaning, and I see the joy in her face, how she's so in the zone with this, and that was a really turning point with my attitude, because I realized how much this means to her. I said, I want to share in her joy. And that was a decision I made. And by making that decision, by coming out of my own comfort zone, I realized, hey, this is fun. This is wonderful.
But that's another key to turning around an attitude, and that's really empathy. You saw it from her perspective, saw the joy that gave her. Anybody else?
The year that Steve was gone from our family, I went into church one Sunday morning, and a gal came up alongside me, just well-meaning, and said, so how's it been without him there? And because I had been learning to incorporate humor and just to we had just decided to take a whole different approach to the whole thing. We were trying to find humor in anything we could find it in, and I looked at her and I said, well, the good thing is there aren't clothes on the bedroom floor, there's no hair in the shower drain, and there's no one slapping my butt every time I walk down the hall. And she looked at me and I went, so basically it stinks. You know, and we had a good laugh over it, but all those little things that typically would irritate you, the clothes, you know, that are always on the floor in front of the dresser, and the shoes that I trip over every day. And after 24 years, I just don't ask him to pick them up anymore. I just step over them.
That's a big thing right there. I want my wife
I just move on, and it's okay, but it's partly perspective too.
I think you touched on something cool, and that is humor. Don't you think that's a key ingredient to turning that attitude around? You mentioned gratitude, humor. Those are two great things for turning an attitude around.
Yeah, because humor's all about perspective, really. Because what you were doing was looking for the positive, and it's almost like sometimes those quirky things that drive us crazy about each other are kind of the things that are endearing.
We sometimes talk about the radical moments when we sometimes turn our attitude around in a big way, even before it turns negative, before it gets to that negative spot. We call it kind of opening up a window of grace.
Yeah, in fact, some of the most gracious moments in marriage are when you have a moment where you know really your spouse could kind of have a bad attitude because you kind of deserve that from them, and then they don't deliver on that. That is an amazing thing. I know we had, I think it was over the Christmas holiday, I was in a hurry. I had lots of errands to run and started backing out of our garage, and I had left the car door open, and I just ripped that thing right off as I backed out.
That's one of those moments when you make a decision, right? You think, okay, there you go. You're going to expand the marriage or collapse the marriage.
So I'm, sheepishly walking up the steps and going, I'm sure you heard the noise, and it was just this total, nice little smile on his face, and he gave me this grace, and it really did create a great holiday for us.
But you kind of think through, what good is it going to do, in those moments. So gratitude, empathy, humor, lots of different things. So. Well, again, folks, it's all about these little hinges, and the big hinge is attitude. It's pretty tough to solve problems without turning around your attitude first, and that's why we say you tackle this problem first, and all the other problems get a lot easier.
So good. I believe all of you are blessed. So you can discuss with your spouse, or you can use this material to have a good discussion in your oikos. Thank you. God bless you all. Bye.